Hello and welcome to the Strong, Healthy, Happy podcast. My name is Debra. I want to wish you a very, very happy new year and to thank you so much for supporting my podcast and for sharing it with your friends and for following the show, subscribing, and for leaving me a 5-star review. And if you haven't done any of those things, please do, because it goes a very, very long way in enabling my podcast to reach more women who I am really passionate about helping. And this podcast, in the same way that you are benefiting, so could many, many other women. So please do share me and leave me a review. It brings my search to higher up, which means other women can find this podcast. Now, let's crack on. I woke up this morning, so it's the very end of December. I think it's the 29th. I actually have no idea what day of the week it is, but we're at the very end of December. And I woke up this morning and I thought to myself, about January, and I hadn't planned to record this podcast. But the more and more I thought, the more I realized how important it was to try and reach you as early on in January as possible, because I know that the realization of the aftermath of Christmas and New Year has probably started entering your mind. And so I wanted to catch you early. Now, the other reason why I wanted to catch you early, which is nothing to do with this podcast, is that if you live in the Watford, Abbots Langley, Hertfordshire and surrounding areas, I am actually doing an in-person event on the 14th of January, all about women's health, menopause and weight loss. And if you're interested in that, there is a link in my show notes to be able to purchase a ticket. Cost is very low. I've kept it low because I want to see as many women there as possible. And it would be great to meet you in person rather than you listening to me or watching me through a screen or seeing me on my social media. It will be great to see you in person. And the event will be held in Abbots Langley. So if you are near this location, please do click that link or reach out to me via my social media and I will send it to you direct. Now, let's focus on the podcast. What I wanted to do is talk about the aftermath of Christmas and New Year, the realization of where you currently are, how you currently feel, and where it is that you want to be, and what you might usually do every January and end up finding yourself in exactly the same place every year. I want this year to be different. And I'm going to talk about what you might usually do. And obviously, I'm being very generic. Some things may resonate with you and some things you might think, well, no, that's not me. But that's okay. I'm trying to reach everybody and keep things very general. Obviously, in my coaching, everything is very individual and very specific. But for the purpose of this podcast, I'm going to just talk very typically about what I find from my experience from talking to other women, plus what I used to do myself. And I'm sure it's all very similar. After talking through what you might typically do every January, I'm then going to talk through a different approach that you could apply to yourself in a way that works for you. And the difference between the two ways, what you might usually do and what I'm going to talk to you about, the biggest difference is the way that you approach yourself. Now, typically, what you might do every January usually comes from a place of hating the way that you feel. Perhaps you've jumped on the scales to shock yourself into taking action, or you just don't feel good in yourself. And so you shame yourself or you hate yourself into change as you get into January. Instead of thinking about wanting to achieve your goals, wanting to lose weight, but it coming from a place of self-care because you want the best for yourself, you want to feel good, and it comes from a positive place. It comes from a place where you want to support your emotional well-being. And instead of the negative self-talk that you might already notice you have started giving to yourself and saying to yourself, it's very easily done, is that we want to switch that negative self-talk and always find a positive approach. Because when you approach your health and your weight loss goals from a positive place, you are more likely going to get those long-term sustainable results that you very, very much want. And so this is what I'm going to be talking about on the podcast. So I'm going to start with what you might usually do at the start of every new year. You might wake up and you think, okay, I am cutting out carbs or whatever food group. Or you might say, I'm never eating chocolate again. I'm cutting it out. I'm never buying it. And you start to think about what you can't have, all these rules, strict dieting, over restriction. You may be going into a dry January, cutting out all alcohol, and you're giving yourself all these rules. Can you relate? It's very common, is you put yourself under all these strict rules. And I'm not saying that these rules aren't right, but the way that you're applying them is in a negative way, which we know is not going to help you get sustainable results. And also the expectations of some of these rules or some of the things you're putting on yourself that you cannot no longer have. You can't do this, you can't eat that, you must do this, you must do that, is it's not coming from a place of self-care. And also it's probably very unrealistic, and you might stick to it for a few days and then you can't. And the flip side of when you can't do something is you throw the towel in and you jump back in with 2 feet, and you end up in this all or nothing approach and mindset, which isn't going to take you closer to the goals that you want to have, and more importantly, help you to feel good along the way. Because taking care of your health, believe it or not, is a really enjoyable process when you do it right. And it's really enjoyable. And when you enjoy something, you're more likely going to continue doing it. And all these rules that you're beginning to think about and cut out and do and can't have comes from a place of punishment and hating yourself into change. Your expectations that you're placing on yourself are unrealistic, and they're not really realistic in maintaining long term. And like I say, it's leading to an all or nothing mindset, and it's setting you up to fail. And talking about the all or nothing mindset, if you're really truly honest with yourself, I know because I know with myself from where I was a number of years ago, all I wanted was to find this place of moderation and balance around all types of foods, all foods. And you starting your year off with cutting everything out, giving yourself rules and restriction, is actually perpetuating the all or nothing mindset. And so I want my approach to help you find more moderation and balance, move away from the all or nothing approach, and also treat yourself with a bit more self-compassion and a lot more kindness. So this is what I'm going to suggest that you do instead. And I want you to be open to my suggestions. And I also want you to be open to the fact that I'm not going to be telling you anything magical, groundbreaking, get the fireworks out, I'm going to change your life forever with what I'm about to tell you, because actually they're very fundamental and there's nothing special about them. But this is what I want you to really understand and realize, is that when it comes to weight loss, when it comes to your health goals, you don't need to be doing anything magical, groundbreaking. You don't need to be spending money, your hard-earned money, on magic pills, potions, whatever is being sold to you, supplements, magic things, because actually it is what I'm going to share with you that is going to get you the results. And not only will they get you results, you will feel fantastic in the process, and you'll be able to sustain them long term. So first of all, whilst it's really tempting to want to do everything all at once and to smash your goals by March, I want you to accept that taking a slower approach is okay. You don't need to do anything fast or drastic. Now, you might choose to, and that's your choice, but you do need to bear in mind that with anything that you take at a faster pace, there is a cost to it. Now, when I talk about a cost, it's the cost benefit of doing a stricter, lower calorie intake diet, whether you're tracking calories or not. If you're eating less food, you're eating less calories. And if you do something very restrictive or very low calorie because you want to get fast results, it does come at a cost. You might find that you cannot stick to your lower calories that you tell yourself that's what you're going to eat. And you might stick to it for a period of time, but then you can't. And invariably you throw the towel in and you go the other way, overeat. And again, this head fuck, that's the only way I can describe it, of the nothing and then the all, and this cycle that goes round and round and round. The low calories that you tell yourself that you may not be able to stick to, likely may not be able to stick to, also gives you less flexibility. And whilst you may be fed up from the socializing that you've done in the lead up to Christmas and over Christmas and New Year, you will eventually want to meet a friend or enjoy a social occasion, or perhaps you have a birthday celebration early on in the year. Like, you want to show up to these things in a more moderate way and have a bit of flexibility. You don't want to be standing there telling everyone, oh, sorry, I can't have this, I can't have that, I'm on a strict diet, because that's not health. And we're looking for long-term results. We're looking to enrich your life. I'm looking for you to enrich your life in the same way that I try and enrich my clients' lives, is that I want them to be able to have a balanced and healthy approach to social occasions. Social occasions are an important part of life. And whilst you might be fed up from them, from having so many over the Christmas period, they are going to slowly creep back in, and they are there for you to enjoy and be fully present at. And food and drink plays a part. Doesn't need to be the main event, but it does play a part. So what I want you to ask yourself is, what's the rush? Why do you need to do things fast? Because there is a cost benefit, and are you prepared for that cost benefit? So ask yourself, what's the rush? Taking a slower approach can often be more enjoyable, and it's more sustainable, and it may fit into your life in a lot more healthy way. And if you have children, you want to eat meals with your family in the evening, taking a slower approach will now allow you to do all these types of things. And I think it's really important to show your kids that you're taking care of your health, but you can still sit down and enjoy a meal with them and not have to have something different because you're on a strict diet. So think about that. Now, instead of trying to do everything all at once, I want you to think about picking just 3 things that you can do consistently. And the 3 examples I'm going to give you may be things that you're already thinking about, but the way and the approach I'm taking is a much more kinder and sustainable approach. And it will also enable you to set more realistic expectations so that you can maintain them and do them long term. And you know what? You might just enjoy them as well. And that's what I want for you to be able to do. So you can pick any 3 things that you want to be able to do consistently. They may not be the examples I'm giving you, but you need to apply this to yourself and think about, what is it that you want to be able to stick to? And you may have some things in mind already, and that's absolutely fine. And you can apply the examples I'm giving to you. Now, the 3 examples I'm going to give you are nutrition, exercise, and a daily walk. And I'm going to break each one down and explain how you can take each of those things and be able to apply it in a more realistic and sustainable way. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to give yourself a range target instead of a fixed target. And what a range target is and how it differs from a fixed target is, let's just use exercise because that's quite an easy one. Is often in January, your New Year's resolutions, enthusiasm is really super high, and that's great. And we want to take advantage of you feeling really enthusiastic and motivated. But remember, we're looking for the long term. You don't want to be one of those people that goes to the gym in January and then you never step foot in it after March. You're done. You're never there again after March. You've got a membership that you don't even use because you're fed up. You let yourself down and you didn't achieve the target that you set yourself. And with all this enthusiasm, you may wake up on New Year's Day and go, right, I'm going to the gym 5 times a week. I'm going to make it work. And you might do that for a week. You might do it for 2 weeks. You might do it for a little longer, but then life creeps in and you can't get there 5 times a week. And so when you miss a session because you've got to take your kid somewhere or you've got to do something, or work pressures heat up and it means that you've got to focus on work and it doesn't allow you to get to the gym. And so instead of going 5 times, you realize, oh my God, I can't go today. And then another day you can't go. And so you think to yourself, well, I can't go 5 times. I'm not going to go at all. And so your sustainability in getting to the gym, all of a sudden you set yourself this fixed target of 5 times. And as far as you're concerned, if you can't get there 5 times, you're not going at all. And again, notice this is an all or nothing approach, except it's to the gym instead of with food. So set yourself a range target. What is realistic around your busy life, family, kids, work, whatever else you've got going on in your life? What is a realistic amount for you to get yourself to the gym? Would it be realistic for you to be able to get there twice a week? Like as a minimum, is 2, like without much effort, you'd be able to get there twice a week. Or maybe it's just once a week. The lower end of your range target needs to be something you can achieve without too much effort. And then you have the higher end, and it might be 5 times a week. So you might have between 2 and 5 times a week. And 2 is your lowest end of your range target. It's going to be the absolute minimum that you're going to get there. And like I say, it could be 1, and that's fine. Once a week is better than no times a week. So let's take that range target from 1 to 5. 1 would be your minimum, and 5 would be your optimum, and that's the top end of your range target. Now, as long as you get there once, you've ticked off what you said you were going to do as you're in your range target. If you manage to get there 2, 3, 4 times, great. You've exceeded that minimum end of your range target. If you can get there 5 times, wonderful, fabulous. You've got to the top end of your range target. But if the following week pressures are on, things are going on in your life, and you can only get there twice, you've still achieved what you set at your range target and you've got there twice. You haven't failed, you've got there twice. In fact, you've succeeded in getting in 1 more session than your minimum. So do you see how it's setting you up to succeed? It's setting you up with realistic expectations that you can maintain and sustain long term. You don't have to always get there 5 times. If you do, celebrate, amazing. But as long as you get there in there once, whatever your form of exercise is, by the way, doesn't matter, doesn't have to be the gym. Although I always advocate strength training, especially for women, to support aging, menopause, long-term health, longevity and quality of life, reducing diseases and illnesses and certain cancers, heart disease, etc. I'm not going to go into that today. I've done a whole podcast all about that. Go and search for the benefits of strength training. But whatever form of exercise you choose to do, set yourself a range target that you'll be able to be able to do that type of exercise, whatever it is, and that you set yourself up to succeed with your range target. Make that minimum one that you know you can, without doubt, without too much effort, achieve. Now, the other example, so that was exercise. Let's talk about nutrition. Now, nutrition, the way you can set yourself a range target could be a calorie target range. So if you're tracking calories using MyFitnessPal or NutriCheck or whatever, is you could give yourself a calorie range. Now, if you don't track calories, that's fine. I have many clients who are successfully losing weight. The lovely Hannah, who's the episode before this, episode 79. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. She is absolutely inspiring and will help you by her own shared experiences that she gives in that podcast. But she didn't track calories. She lost 4 stone without tracking calories. And if you're not tracking calories, the way you could set your range target could be something like setting a target around protein and veg. And I'm going to talk more about that. But if you're tracking calories and you know your calorie intake, you set yourself a range target in exactly the same way as we did for exercise, but for calories. So your ideal calorie amount might be 1700, right? I'm just plucking that number from the air. Obviously, your calorie target is very individual based on you, your activity levels, and your current weight, etc. But let's just pluck that number out the air, 1700. So instead of aiming for 1700 on the nose every day, and remember, you're not a robot, and sometimes your hunger will fluctuate down or up. If you set yourself a fixed target, what usually happens if you go over 1700 and you have a fixed target, you think, fuck it, I've blown it. I've ruined everything. I've gone 50 calories over. I might as well give up for the rest of the day. And so you end up eating 3000 calories because you went into a bit of a fuck it mode because you went 50 calories over. Do you see how that's illogical? If you give yourself a range target, so you could go a little bit under and a little bit over and say 16 to 1800 calories. If you do go over 1700, you will still be in a deficit and in that 1800. It will just be a smaller deficit, but you will still lose weight eating at the higher end of your calorie range. It may take a little longer, but we've already asked ourselves, what's the rush? We want to make this sustainable and we want to make this achievable. And if you go over by 50 calories, you'll be like, hey, that's okay. I've got until 1800 calories. I got up until 1800 calories. I'm still in a deficit. I haven't ruined anything. So having a calorie range is a really positive thing, especially if you're the type of person that if your calories go over your set target, and then you throw the towel in. A range target is really good. Now, your range target can be whatever you set yourself, but I always advise, something like 10% over, 10 to 20% under, and 10 to 20% over. So set a range target. If you're not tracking calories, what I would advise you to do is use protein and veg, because you should be including vegetables or fruit, depending the meal type, into every meal. And you should also be including a serving of protein. If you're looking to lose weight, ideally a lean protein source. Protein is, usually your animal products, meats, fish, dairy, things like that. And if you're vegetarian or vegan, obviously your plant-based alternatives. And in every meal, you want to be including protein. Protein will benefit your health. It also keeps you fuller for longer, which is really conducive when you're looking to lose weight and you're eating less than you expend. So you may set a range target. If you look at the fact there's 3 meals in a day, and you may say to yourself, right, I'm going to make sure that at least 2 of my meals have protein and veg or fruit in it. Optimally, I want to have 3 meals having protein and veg, and ideally a snack. So you're going to get protein in and veg or fruit 4 times in your day. Might sound like a lot, but vegetables is good for you. It's full of fiber. It also keeps you full, and it also aids your digestion. And it has many vitamins and minerals in it, which is going to benefit your health. So your 3 meals would have either veg or fruit, and a snack could be something like a yogurt. It could be a protein pudding, could be a Baby Bell light cheese or meat slices, and whatever veg, salad, fruit, whatever on the side. So minimally, you're looking at least 2 servings a day, and optimally 4. And as long as you have 2, you're hitting your target. If you get 3, amazing. If you hit 4, you're doing really, really well. And therefore, you have a range target, whether you're tracking calories or you're using protein and veg and fruits. And again, you can make this specific for you. Now, I also want to put into this section, if you have already thought about cutting out certain foods in January, especially after the indulgences and excesses of the Christmas period, and you might tell yourself that you can't control yourself around, for example, chocolate, can't control it. So you want to cut it out. Now, I want to just address this because there's a lot of nuance, and it also depends on your dieting history and you as an individual. And I get into detail of this with my clients. This is all part of coaching, but in a generic format on a podcast, it's not a bad idea for you to remove these foods initially, not long term. But removing these foods, cutting out chocolate, telling yourself, I'm never buying it again, I can't control myself around it, is actually you increasing the attraction on these foods because you're telling yourself you can't have them. And human nature tells us that we want whatever we can't have. And so you getting them out the house actually increases the attraction. Maybe not straight away. Maybe it's fine because you're motivated. You're really ready for improving your health and losing weight in January, and it's all great. But eventually you will get cravings for them, or you will be in a situation where there'll be chocolate. And then you go into you tell yourself, I can't control myself around them. You overeat on them, and then you tell yourself you're never having that again. And then this cycle can keep repeating. What I actually advise is maybe after an initial period of just reducing temptation by not having them around, it's not actually a long-term solution. And to reduce the attraction of them, to reduce the novelty and appeal of them, is actually by including them into your daily diet. So if we use celebration chocolates as an example, you may have had tubs of them lying around from Christmas, and you maybe have dipped into them regularly all day, every day, or whatever. But if you were to buy small sizes of chocolates, or you had a small box of those of celebrations, and you said to yourself, you can have 3 of those chocolates every single day, and you give yourself permission to eat them, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, that's nothing special then. I get to eat these every single day. And when you know you can eat something every day, it starts to reduce the appeal of them. They're not on a pedestal anymore. They're not special because you're going to eat them every single day. And the condition is that you sit down and you eat them following on from a meal when you're already pretty full. And so you would sit down and you would eat your 3 chocolates mindfully and slowly. And trust me, you will really enjoy them so much more than eating more than 3 when you're rushing them, because you just know you just want to eat them all because you tell yourself you can't control yourself. So including them every day, you might get to the point where actually you think, I've had enough after 2. And then eventually you get to the day where you think, I really don't want these anymore. And then the novelty wears off and you learn to control yourself around these foods because the attraction, the appeal, the novelty of those celebrations have greatly reduced. You know you can have them in the house and choose to have them or not have them. And if you do choose to have them, you're able to now eat them in a more moderate amount. So it's something to think about. And if you do, like, obviously coaching will give you more support, and you know where I am if you want to start coaching. Link is in my bio for an application form. Now, we've talked about exercise, we've talked about nutrition and how to set those daily range targets, however they may look for you. A daily walk. Now, you might think, what the hell? Like, a walk. How's that going to support my health? Well, getting outside, ideally in daylight, preferably in nature, is going to support your emotional and mental well-being. Moving your body by walking is extremely beneficial. I don't know what it is about walking, but people think it's like the poor relative to running. Like, you don't have to run. Walking is absolutely fine. It increases your daily steps, and your daily steps are the biggest contributor to the amount of calories you expend in a day. Now, I'm not suggesting that you walk for the sole purpose of expending calories, because that's not healthy. I would approach your walk as a way for you to benefit your mental and emotional well-being, to feel good, to get yourself out, ideally, like I say, in daylight and nature. And there are studies that show that walking in nature greatly reduces stress and increases your mental and emotional well-being. You will get back home after a walk, and it can be 10 minutes, right? It doesn't have to be far. You will feel so much better for it. You will feel more energy. Your mood will be much higher than it was before you went. And you will also be a lot more productive. I often come in from a walk, I put a load of washing on, take the other load out, hang it out, get the hoover around, do 10 things before I then do what it is that I need to do because I'm highly, like, I feel so great and my productivity is really high. Maybe not 10 things, 5 things. So think about it. The way that you can set yourself a range target, it could be in the amount of time you do your walk, if you know you can definitely do a daily walk, or you might want to think about the frequency. If you know I can't commit to doing a daily walk, remember, we want to set you up to succeed. So you might think, I can do a daily walk, but I can't do every day. I know as a minimum, I'm going to get myself out without too much effort. I can definitely do 3 days a week. Optimally, you want to do 7 days, but anywhere between 3 and 7 sets you up to succeed. Some weeks you may just about scrape through those 3 minimum, and other days you might get in the 5 and 6 and even 7 and do it daily. The more you do it, the more you get sustainable, the more you get consistent with it, the more you're going to recognize the benefits of that walk, and the more you're going to want to do it. And I've had many clients say to me while the kids have been off over Christmas, it's been harder for them to get out, and the kids haven't wanted to get out. It's been a real battle, especially with younger kids where they can't be left alone, and they've really missed their walk. So it is very, very beneficial. And just to really go back and touch on exercise, because I didn't say it before when I talked about exercise, is that you've set yourself the frequency, how many times a week you can exercise. I really want to emphasize here, in terms of exercise, you are not exercising to burn calories. If you approach your exercise with the mindset of looking at how many calories you've expended from that form of exercise, or you're using exercise to burn and earn your food or treats, it is a very unhealthy approach to exercise. Exercise is to support and benefit your health and how you feel, and your mental well-being, your mental resilience, your physical body, your physical ability. If you approach exercise as a form of burning and earning food and calories, you are going to be getting yourself into a unhealthy cycle of over-exercising and overeating, because that is what happens. And you don't want that, because it is not healthy and it will not take you closer to your goals. Exercise, because it's a flipping amazing thing to be able to do. You are fortunate that you get to exercise, that you are able to move your body, that you can exercise. Approach it as a way of exercise, as a way of showing yourself self-care to benefit your mental and physical and emotional health. And I really wanted to put that in there. When I led running sessions, which I did for 14 years, guaranteed at the end of every session, someone would say, oh, look, I've burnt X calories. I've earned myself whatever it might be. And I used to say the same thing. You can have whatever it is you want without having to exercise. You're not a hamster, and you don't need to run around your wheel earning and burning food. And it's really, really important. So let's summarize everything. Before I summarize, last thing I want you to implement, and this is not one of the range targets, I want you to show yourself an act of self-care. Now, this may not be something you're able to do every day, but taking care of your health with your nutrition, your exercise, and your walk are all acts of self-care. But outside of this, I want you to do something that shows you how you care about yourself. Perhaps, you're always rushing around and you don't have time to perhaps have a bath, or to put moisturizer on, or to change your earrings and have a nice piece of jewelry on, or to dress. Even though you're not doing anything particularly that day, you dress nicely because it makes you feel good. Whatever your act of self-care is, it makes you feel good, and it also supports a positive body image and the way you perceive and feel about yourself. And when you feel and perceive positively about yourself, it will encourage you to continue doing lots of things to support your health and your well-being, your weight loss goal and your health goal. So let's summarize. Set yourself up to succeed. Give yourself range targets. Don't try and do everything all at once. Pick 3 things. Those 3 things may change over the weeks, but start with 3 things that you can build consistency with. Set yourself those range targets. Think about doing things that make you feel good. Think about making improvements to your health and losing weight from a place of self-care, not punishment, not shame, not shocking yourself into taking action. Do things for yourself because you care. Also accept that you're going to make mistakes along the way. You're not always going to get things right. And that's okay. That is how we learn. We always learn forwards. And no matter what mistake you make, try not to let it impact the next choice or decision you make in your day. Don't let one mistake sack off the whole day or 2 days or the weekend or the week. You don't need to start again Monday. Just start again straight away. And whatever happens, no matter if you don't hit your target, I mean, ideally, you've got a range target, so you'll always hit your minimum. But whatever happens, no matter what mistake you make, promise yourself that you're never going to give up and that you always approach your health and your well-being and your weight loss goal from a place of self-care and that you don't quit on yourself. If you have any questions, please get in touch. And if you want more details about my in-person women's health, menopause and weight loss talk in Abbots Langley, click the link that I'm sharing in my show notes or message me direct. Tickets are only £10 and you get a tea or coffee included in that cost. So do get in touch. And thank you so much for listening. And don't forget to like and share. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day and a happy, happy new year.